Since my last talk about creation and creativity and creating your future, creating our future, I've been researching and working out how to do this next talk, which may be one of the most difficult ones that I need to do. And I've looked at doing it using PowerPoint or Canva or using Microsoft Word or Google Sheets to show you a sentence. And the sentence is Bereshit bara Elohim et hashamayim ve'et haaretz. It's the first sentence in the Torah, in the Bible, the 5 books of Moses. We know Bereshit bara Elohim et hashamayim ve'et haaretz is translated as, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. When we look at this from a Kabbalistic point of view and we delve deeply into the meaning of this, we have, in the beginning, God created. And if we look at each word, it says, in the beginning, created God. And there's been this whole debate about whether the translation should be the beginning created God. And if the beginning created God, what was God doing? And so my interpretation of with all my studying and reading is that the one way of translating this is, in the beginning, God created. And when we say in the beginning created God, which is the direct sentence structure, we get the point that God was created in the human psyche in the beginning. So in our beginning, when we begin with who we are and with discovering our value system, we need to create God in our minds. And it's not that we're creating God. God doesn't need to be created. God has always been there. God was there before the beginning and will be there after the end, which is called an eon. Buddhism talks about multiple eons. But we need to understand who we are. And the way that we do that is by understanding our relationship with God. So let's look further into the words. In the beginning, God created. Bereshit bara Elohim et. God created et. Et is Aleph Tav. It's the first letter and the last letter of the Hebrew alphabet. 1 and 400. Aleph, enlightenment. Tav, crossing. That is the archetypes of those 2 letters, the Aleph and the Tav. Enlightenment and crossing. We need to cross. We need to go across the dark place. We need to get across this understanding and concept of how we see God. Each of us see God in our own way. And that's fine. So God creates et hashamayim. And et is the alphabet, and the alphabet gives us the language. So God creates the language of heaven and the language of earth, and the communication between heaven and earth. So I think that as you visualize this first sentence, you can see how much depth and complexity and understanding there can be if we search for it. We create God in our mind. God doesn't need to be created because God always is and will be and was. But in our mind, we constantly need to look for that value system that allows us to create who God is for us, for each of us in our mind. And then to understand the language of heaven and the language of earth, and how these 2 languages relate to each other, and how we move from darkness to light, and how we move from light to darkness, and why we need darkness, and why we need an Aleph Bet. And then we have the first 2 letters, which is Aleph Bet or Aleph Vet. And if you put them together, they become Av, and Av is translated as father. But if you look at the first 2 letters, it's 1, 2. And if you add the et, the 400, it becomes 1, 2, 4, which is that exponential series of progression as the human life is created and the cells separate. And so the ancients knew about atoms, and they knew about separation, and they knew about growth, and they knew about geometric series 1, 2, 4, 8. And it's in the very first sentence of Torah. The alphabet, the Aleph Bet, and the et, the language, the full alphabet, the 22 letters that gives us completion. So we must always have God in mind, this supernatural force that makes us who we are. which gives us enlightenment, and which gives us a path to find redemption for ourselves, as we'll see in this incredible book and in so many other books where the word, the logo, the logos is created, described, put forward, seen. Thank you.